Please refrain from standing with us. People might assume you are our maid." Those words, spoken loudly in a crowded airport terminal, shattered 23 years of silent suffering in an instant. I am Barbara Reynolds, and this is the story of how one cruel sentence finally empowered me to reclaim my dignity. Before I proceed, I would appreciate knowing where you are tuning in from today. Feel free to drop your state in the comments. Trust me, you will want to hear every detail of this story. It was a Tuesday morning in late September when everything changed. The Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport buzzed with the usual chaos of travelers rushing to their gates, dragging oversized luggage and juggling coffee cups. I stood near the check-in counter, my sensible gray cardigan buttoned against the aggressive air conditioning, watching my son Michael struggle with his phone while his wife Stephanie issued instructions regarding their seat assignments. I had driven 3 hours from Sedona that morning, leaving my home at 4 a.m. to meet them for what was intended to be a family vacation in Hawaii. My treat, using my credit card and miles, and my desperate attempt to bond with the daughter-in-law who had kept me at arm's length since her marriage to my son 15 years ago. "Barbara, did you remember to bring the sunscreen I asked for?" Stephanie did not look up from her compact mirror as she reapplied her lipstick. She has never called me mom, not once in all these years. "Barbara," she said with just enough coldness to remind me that I was tolerated, not welcomed. "Yes, it's in my carry-on, SPF 50, as you specified." My 3 grandchildren, Emma, 14, Lucas, 11, and little Sophie, 7, stood nearby, absorbed in their devices, barely acknowledging my arrival beyond mumbled hellos. I had spent the previous week purchasing new swimsuits, beach toys, and those expensive reef-safe sunscreens for them. Stephanie insisted that the bags at my feet contained carefully chosen gifts for each child. "The concierge at the resort confirmed our ocean view suite," Michael finally said, looking up from his phone. "They said it's their best family accommodation." I smiled, recalling how I had personally called the resort 3 times to ensure everything would be perfect. I had upgraded their room, arranged for a private luau dinner, and even booked a couple's massage for Michael and Stephanie at the spa. None of them knew about these details yet. I had planned to surprise them once we arrived, hoping these gestures might finally break the wall between us. "Mom, can you hold my bag? I need both hands for this." Michael thrust his backpack at me without waiting for a response. I took it, adding it to the load I was already carrying. Typical. Somewhere along the way, I had become the family pack mule, the convenient helper who appeared when needed and disappeared when not. But I told myself this trip would be different. It would be the breakthrough I had long awaited. How spectacularly wrong I was. As we approached the ticket counter, Stephanie suddenly stopped and turned to face me. Her expression bore that particular look I had come to recognize over the years, the one that preceded her most cutting remarks. What she said next would change everything. "Barbara, seriously, don't stand with us. People will think you're our maid." The words struck me like a physical blow. Several travelers nearby turned to stare. A woman with a baby even gasped. Michael's head snapped up from his phone, but he remained silent. The children pretended not to hear, their eyes glued to their screens in practiced avoidance. I stood frozen, heat flooding my face. Stephanie had made cruel remarks before, whispered comments about my cooking, backhanded compliments about my outdated clothes, pointed remarks about my interference when I offered to babysit. But this was different. This was public humiliation delivered with calculated cruelty in front of strangers and family alike. "Stephanie, that's," Michael began, but his wife cut him off. "What? I'm just being honest. Look at her, Michael. That dowdy cardigan, those practical shoes, standing here with all our bags like hired help. I don't want people getting the wrong impression about us." My hands trembled as I stood there, still holding their bags, still wearing the comfortable clothes I had chosen for a long day of travel. I had awakened at 3:30 that morning, made myself presentable, packed everyone's favorite snacks for the flight, double-checked all the reservation details, and this was my reward. "I'll just go sit over there," I heard myself say, my voice barely above a whisper. I began to turn away, dragging their luggage with me, still playing my assigned role. "Mom, wait." Michael's voice held a note of something, guilt, perhaps, or embarrassment, but not enough to actually defend me, not enough to tell his wife her behavior was unacceptable, just like always. That's when something inside me cracked wide open. It was not the sharp break of sudden anger, but the slow, inevitable crumbling of a foundation that had been weakening for years. I had made excuses for Stephanie's behavior countless times. She was stressed with the kids. She didn't mean it that way. That was just her sense of humor. I had swallowed my hurt and disappointment out of fear of losing access to my son and grandchildren. But standing in that airport, publicly labeled as hired help by the woman who had made my life a quiet misery for 15 years, something fundamental shifted. I thought about the credit card in my wallet, the one linked to this entire trip, the resort reservation in my name, the flight confirmation sitting in my email inbox, the travel insurance I had purchased. Every single detail of this vacation was tied to me financially. I had spent nearly $15,000 on this trip, first-class tickets for all of them while I had booked myself an economy seat, the ocean view suite that cost $900 a night, the prepaid meals, the activities, the spa treatments. I had even purchased trip cancellation insurance because I wanted everything to be perfect. My hand moved to my purse, fingers finding the familiar shape of my wallet. For the first time in 23 years of being treated like an inconvenience in my own son's life, I was about to make a choice for myself. I walked toward the restroom with my purse, leaving their bags in a pile near the check-in counter. My legs felt strangely steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Behind me, I heard Stephanie say something to Michael, her tone sharp and dismissive. Whatever it was, he did not come after me. In the fluorescent glare of the airport bathroom, I stared at my reflection. A 68-year-old woman looked back at me. Gray hair, neatly styled, minimal makeup. Yes, a practical cardigan and comfortable shoes, because I would be traveling for 12 hours. When had taking care of myself and dressing sensibly become something to mock? My late husband, Robert, had loved this cardigan. "Looks cozy," he would say, pulling me close. He had been gone for 6 years now, and I had spent those years desperately trying to remain relevant in my son's life, accepting scraps of affection and enduring Stephanie's passive-aggressive cruelty out of fear of being cut off completely. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and opened my email app. The confirmation numbers were all there, neatly organized in a folder I had labeled Hawaii Family Trip. 23 separate reservations and bookings, each made with the hope that this vacation would finally bridge the gap between us. The main reservation, the one that mattered most, was through the airline's website under my account. I had booked all 5 of their tickets using my credit card and my frequent flyer miles. The system was clear. As the primary account holder and purchaser, I had full control over the booking. I opened the airline's app and navigated to the reservation. My finger hovered over the screen. This was it, the point of no return. Did I really want to do this? I thought about Thanksgiving last year when Stephanie had uninvited me 2 days prior, claiming they wanted a small, immediate family dinner. I had spent the day alone with a frozen meal. I thought about Sophie's dance recital, where Stephanie had given my reserved seat to one of her friends, forcing me to stand in the back. I thought about the birthday parties I had not been informed about until I saw photos on social media. I thought about Christmas morning when I arrived with carefully wrapped gifts, only to have Stephanie answer the door and say, "Oh, we weren't expecting you until dinner. This is really inconvenient timing." Every small humiliation, every casual cruelty, every moment I had swallowed my hurt and told myself it would get better crystallized in this single moment of clarity. My finger moved across the screen, navigating through the menus with surprising calm. The app made it remarkably simple. Remove passenger, confirm removal, process change. I removed Stephanie first, then Michael, then each of the children, feeling a pang of guilt that I quickly suppressed. They were learning from their parents that treating people, especially me, with casual cruelty was acceptable. Perhaps this would serve as a lesson. The app processed each change, sending confirmation emails that I watched appear in my inbox one by one. The system automatically flagged the tickets as canceled and issued a credit to my account. Done. I washed my hands carefully, taking my time, watching the soap disappear down the drain. My reflection looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in years, I had chosen myself. Walking back to the terminal, I spotted them still clustered near the check-in counter. Michael was gesturing at something on his phone while Stephanie examined her nails. The children sat on their luggage, looking bored. They resembled what they were, a family waiting for someone else to handle everything while they barely acknowledged my existence. I approached with steady steps, my carry-on bag rolling smoothly behind me. Stephanie saw me first, her expression morphing from indifference to irritation. "There you are. We need to check in now. Did you bring the confirmation number?" "I need to talk to Michael," I said quietly. "Alone. Whatever you need to say, you can say in front of me." Stephanie crossed her arms. "We're married, in case you forgot. No secrets. Then you can both hear this." I kept my voice level, aware that this conversation was occurring in public, just like the humiliation she had dealt me. "I've removed all of you from the flight reservation." The words hung in the air for 3 full seconds before anyone reacted. "What?" Michael's face went pale. "You've what?" Stephanie's voice rose sharply. "The tickets were booked under my account with my credit card. I've canceled them. You are no longer confirmed passengers on the flight to Maui." "This is insane," Stephanie exclaimed. "You can't just—" "I can, actually, and I did, about 5 minutes ago." Michael grabbed his phone, frantically pulling up his email. I watched his face as he found the cancellation confirmations. "Mom, what? Why would you?" "Because I'm tired, Michael." The words came out calm, almost gentle. "I'm tired of being treated like an inconvenience. I'm tired of being insulted and dismissed. And I'm especially tired of being told I look like hired help by someone who has spent the last 15 years treating me exactly like hired help." "It was a joke," Stephanie sputtered. "God, you're so sensitive. You can't take a joke, and now you're sabotaging our entire vacation." "It wasn't a joke. It was cruel. Just like telling me I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving was cruel. Just like giving away my seat at Sophie's recital was cruel. Just like every small cut you've delivered over the years, thinking I would just keep taking it because I was afraid of losing my son." Michael looked stricken. "Mom, we can talk about this. Just put us back on the flight. We can work this out." "No." The word felt powerful, final. "You should have worked it out before you let your wife publicly humiliate me. You should have worked it out years ago when you started treating me like a convenient babysitter instead of your mother. Before you think I'm the villain here, let me ask you something. Have you ever hit a breaking point where you finally stood up for yourself? If you have, please subscribe to my channel because you will understand exactly why I couldn't back down." "You're being ridiculous." Stephanie's face had turned red. "Michael, do something. She can't just strand us here." But I wasn't finished. "The resort reservation is also in my name. I've modified it to a single occupancy for myself. The rental car, the prepaid activities, the private luau dinner, all of it was under my name, and all of it has been changed." Michael's phone buzzed repeatedly as the cancellation confirmations continued arriving. "Mom, please. The kids. The kids barely said hello to me this morning. They have been taught by their parents that ignoring grandma is perfectly acceptable. Perhaps this will teach all of you something about consequences." Little Sophie tugged on Michael's sleeve. "Daddy, what's happening? Are we still going to Hawaii?" My heart squeezed, but I held firm. "That's up to your parents now, sweetheart. They will need to book their own trip." "This is elder abuse," Stephanie shrieked. "You're mentally unstable. Michael, we need to call someone. She's clearly having some kind of breakdown." "I'm not having a breakdown, Stephanie. I'm having a breakthrough. There's a difference." An airline employee approached, drawn by the commotion. "Is everything all right here?" "No." Stephanie turned to him desperately. "This woman has sabotaged our tickets. We have 5 boarding passes for the Maui flight in 40 minutes, and she somehow canceled them." The employee looked at his tablet, typing something. "Can I have your confirmation number?" Michael rattled it off, his voice shaking. The employee's expression shifted from professional courtesy to awkward discomfort as he read the screen. "I see. Well, sir, it appears the tickets were canceled by the primary account holder approximately 10 minutes ago. The The system shows they've been converted to travel credits under her name. But we have a family vacation planned. Michael's voice cracked. We have hotel reservations, activities booked. I understand, sir, but the primary account holder has the right to modify bookings made through their account. If you would like to purchase new tickets, I can assist you with that. We do have seats available on this flight, but I should mention that prices have increased significantly since the original booking was made. Stephanie's eyes widened. How much? The employee tapped his screen. For 5 passengers, first-class tickets as originally booked would be $14,300. The color drained from Stephanie's face. Michael looked like he might be sick. We don't have that kind of money available right now, he said quietly. Mom, you know we don't. We were counting on this trip. The kids have been looking forward to it for months. Then perhaps you should have treated me with basic respect and human decency. Perhaps you should have said something when your wife told me I looked like your maid. Perhaps, Michael, you should have been my son instead of her puppet. The words were harsh, but they needed to be said. For 15 years, I had bitten my tongue, swallowed my hurt, and accepted the unacceptable. No more. I will be boarding my flight now, I said, picking up my carry-on. I suggest you figure out your next steps. Good luck. I walked away from them toward the security line, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Behind me, Stephanie's voice rose in pitch, a mix of anger and panic. Michael said something I couldn't make out. One of the children started crying, probably Sophie, the most sensitive of the 3. I forced myself not to look back. Looking back would weaken my resolve, and I had spent too many years weakening, bending, accommodating, until there was almost nothing left of the woman I used to be. The TSA line moved slowly, giving me too much time to think. Was I being cruel? Was I punishing innocent children for their parents' behavior? The doubts circled like vultures, picking at my conviction. But then I remembered Sophie's 7th birthday party last month. I had driven 3 hours with a custom-made cake, her favorite strawberry with cream cheese frosting, arriving exactly when Stephanie had told me to come. Except Stephanie had deliberately given me the wrong time. The party had been over for an hour, and Sophie was already wiping off her face paint while the other children were leaving. Oh, Barbara, didn't I say 1? Stephanie had said with mock innocence. I could have sworn I said 1. Well, I guess Sophie can have your cake later. Later. Like I was an afterthought. Like my effort and love in the 3-hour drive meant nothing. I had smiled, said it was fine, and stayed to help clean up while Stephanie sat with her friends, laughing about something on their phones. Michael had been in the garage, conveniently absent. That memory steeled me. I placed my bag on the conveyor belt and walked through the metal detector. By the time I reached my gate, the overhead announcement was calling for first-class passengers to begin boarding. I was flying first class. I had upgraded my own ticket after canceling theirs. If I was going to Hawaii alone, I was going to be comfortable. The gate agent scanned my boarding pass with a cheerful smile. Enjoy your flight, Miss Reynolds. As I walked down the jetway, my phone buzzed insistently. Text messages from Michael, each one more desperate than the last. Mom, please, we can fix this. Stephanie apologizes. She didn't mean it. Think about the kids. They don't deserve this. We're trying to book a flight, but everything's so expensive. Can you at least restore the hotel reservation? Why are you doing this? This isn't like you. That last message made me pause. He was right. It wasn't like me. The old Barbara would have already caved, already restored the reservations, already accepted Stephanie's hollow apology and Michael's weak defense. But I wasn't the old Barbara anymore. That woman had died somewhere between the check-in counter and the bathroom, killed by one cruel sentence spoken too loudly in a crowded airport. I silenced my phone and settled into my first-class seat. The flight attendant offered me champagne, and I accepted. Through the window, I could see the terminal where my family was probably still scrambling, trying to figure out how to salvage their vacation. I felt a pang of something. Not quite guilt, not quite satisfaction, but something more complex, more adult. The feeling of drawing a boundary after years of being boundaryless. The plane pushed back from the gate right on schedule. As we taxied toward the runway, I allowed myself one glance at my phone. 23 missed calls, 37 text messages. My finger hovered over the power button before I turned the device off completely. The flight attendant returned, a woman about my age with kind eyes and silver hair styled in an elegant bob. "First time to Maui?" she asked. "No, but it's my first time going alone." Something in my voice must have conveyed more than the words, because her expression softened with understanding. Sometimes alone is exactly what we need. She was right. As the plane lifted off the ground, climbing into the clear Arizona sky, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: lightness. Not happiness exactly. Not yet, but the absence of the constant weight I had been carrying. I had spent 6 years as a widow trying to stay connected to my son's family, terrified that if I pushed back against Stephanie's cruelty, I would lose them entirely. But what exactly had I been holding on to? Holidays where I was an afterthought? Birthday parties where I was deliberately humiliated? Visits where I was tolerated rather than welcomed? My husband, Robert, and I had raised Michael with love, support, and clear values about treating people with kindness and respect. Somewhere along the way, those values had been eroded by a woman who saw me not as a person, but as competition and inconvenience, someone to be managed and minimized. And Michael had allowed it to happen. That hurt more than anything Stephanie had done. My son, whom I had raised to stand up for what was right, had watched his wife diminish and dismiss his mother for 15 years and said nothing of consequence. The flight attendant brought me lunch, actually edible food in first class, not the sad sandwich I had been anticipating in economy. As I ate, I thought about the week ahead. 7 days in Maui, 7 days to remember who Barbara Reynolds was before she became a woman who accepted crumbs. I had been an elementary school teacher for 35 years before retiring. I had raised a son mostly on my own, while Robert worked long hours building his business. I had volunteered at the women's shelter, run the church bake sale, and organized neighborhood watch meetings. I had been someone who mattered in my community. When had I become so small? The answer was clear. Gradually, over 15 years, one small acceptance of unacceptable behavior at a time, death by 1,000 cuts. Except I had been holding the knife to my own throat, terrified that setting it down would mean being completely alone. But I was alone anyway, wasn't I? Alone in a crowd of people who didn't value me. At least now I was alone with my dignity intact. My phone remained off for the entire 5-hour flight. I watched a movie, read the novel I had brought, and actually relaxed for the first time in recent memory. No one needed anything from me. No one was criticizing my choices or making passive-aggressive comments about my appearance. The landing was smooth, and the Hawaiian air that greeted me as I exited the airport was warm and fragrant with plumeria. The resort was even more beautiful than the pictures. My ocean view suite, originally booked for 5, seemed almost decadent with just me in it. A massive king bed faced floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. The balcony held a private hot tub. Fresh orchids adorned every surface. The concierge who checked me in, a woman named Leilani with flowers woven into her hair, noticed my modified reservation. "Just you, Miss Reynolds?" "Just me." Her smile held no pity, only warmth. Sometimes that's the best way to travel. We have a wonderful solo travelers program if you're interested. Sunset yoga, guided meditation, small group excursions. I hadn't even unpacked before my phone, which I had finally turned back on, exploded with notifications. 53 missed calls now, over 100 text messages, 3 voicemails. I listened to the voicemails against my better judgment. The first was Michael, his voice tight with anger masking hurt. "Mom, I can't believe you actually got on the plane. We're at the airport trying to figure this out. The kids are crying. Stephanie is, well, she's really upset. I don't understand why you're being so vindictive. This isn't just about you. You've ruined a family vacation." Ruined a family vacation I had planned and paid for entirely by myself. Interesting perspective. The second voicemail was Stephanie, and her tone had shifted from outrage to manipulation. "Barbara, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings at the airport. I have a dry sense of humor, and sometimes I don't realize how things sound, but this is extreme. You're hurting innocent children to make a point. Is that really the kind of grandmother you want to be? Think about what you're teaching them about forgiveness and family." The audacity was almost impressive. She was actually trying to guilt me about the values I was teaching the children, children she had been teaching to disrespect me for their entire lives. The third voicemail was Michael again, and this time his voice cracked with emotion. Mom, please. I know things haven't been perfect. I know Stephanie can be difficult, but we're family. We can work through this. Just call me back, please. I sat on the balcony with a glass of wine from the welcome basket, watching the sun paint the ocean in shades of gold and pink. The messages all had the same theme. I was being unreasonable, hurting the children, destroying the family. Not once did anyone acknowledge the years of hurt that had led to this moment. Not once did Michael actually defend me or take responsibility for enabling his wife's behavior. The text messages were a mixture of anger, pleading, and attempted negotiation. Several from Michael offered to have a serious talk with Stephanie if I would restore the reservations. Others asked if we could at least discuss it when I returned home. One message from Emma, my eldest grandchild, stood out. Grandma, I'm sorry about what Mom said. That was really mean. But we're really sad about missing Hawaii. Is there any way to fix this? At least one of them saw the situation clearly. That message made me pause, made me question again whether I had gone too far. Then another text arrived from Stephanie. You're a selfish, bitter old woman who can't take a joke. You've always been jealous of my relationship with Michael, and now you're trying to ruin our family. Enjoy your lonely vacation. Don't expect to see your grandchildren again. There it was, the mask finally off. No more fake apologies or manipulative appeals to my better nature. This was who Stephanie really was, and these were the threats she had been holding over my head for 15 years. The implicit promise that if I didn't comply, if I didn't accept mistreatment with a smile, I would be cut off from my son and grandchildren. I had been so afraid of those threats that I had allowed them to control me. But reading them now, spelled out in black and white, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Because now Michael would see it too. There was no way he could read that message and not understand what I had been dealing with all these years. I forwarded the message to Michael with a simple note. This is who you've chosen to defend. This is the person you've enabled to treat your mother this way for 15 years. I hope it was worth it. Then I blocked both their numbers and deleted my social media apps. Whatever happened next, I was not going to spend my vacation watching it unfold in real time. The next 6 days were a revelation. I joined the Solo Travelers group and met 3 other women in their 60s and 70s, Patricia from Boston, Jennifer from Seattle, and Carol from Austin. All divorced or widowed, all traveling alone, all with their own stories of reclaiming their lives. We took a sunrise hike through a bamboo forest. We snorkeled in crystalline waters surrounded by sea turtles and tropical fish. We ate fresh poke and shave ice. We laughed until our sides hurt and shared stories late into the night over Mai Tais on the beach. You know what I learned? Carol said one evening as we watched the sunset. People will treat you exactly as badly as you let them. Setting a boundary isn't cruel. Allowing someone to repeatedly disrespect you is cruel to yourself. On my last evening in Maui, I sat on my balcony and finally unblocked Michael's number. There were 17 new messages, but only one made me pause. It was from 3 days ago. Mom, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Stephanie showed me the text she sent you, and I'm horrified. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten. I've been a terrible son. I don't know if you can forgive me, but I need you to know that I see it now. I really see it. We're in counseling. I insisted. Stephanie can either work on herself or we're done. The kids miss you. I miss you. When you're ready to talk, I'll be here. I love you. I'm sorry. I read it 3 times, looking for the catch, the excuse, the blame shifting. But it seemed genuine. Whether it would last remained to be seen. I landed back in Phoenix on a Sunday afternoon, tanned, rested, and fundamentally changed. My house in Sedona welcomed me back with its familiar red rock views and the garden I had neglected for too long. Michael called that evening. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. Mom, I know you're back. I'm not asking to see you or for you to forgive me right away. I just wanted you to know that things are different now. Stephanie has moved in with her sister for a while. We're separated. She's in therapy, individual therapy, and so am I. I'm learning a lot about codependency and conflict avoidance and how I failed you. The kids are asking about you constantly, especially Emma. She wrote you a letter. When you're ready, I'd like to bring them by. No pressure. Your timeline. I love you. I didn't call back that night or the next day. I spent the week settling back into my life, tending my garden, having coffee with my friend Dorothy, who had been telling me for years that I deserved better. So you really did it, Dorothy said with admiration. You finally stood up for yourself. I did. How does it feel? Terrifying, liberating, complicated. 2 weeks after I returned home, I invited Michael and the children over for lunch. Just them, no Stephanie. Michael looked older somehow, more worn, but also more present than I had seen him in years. The children were hesitant at first, until Sophie ran to me with tears streaming down her face. Grandma, I'm so sorry. Mommy was so mean to you and I didn't say anything, and you must have felt so sad. I held her while she cried, and then Emma and Lucas joined us, and we all cried together on my couch while Michael watched with tears of his own falling. I failed you, Mom, he said quietly. I let her treat you that way because it was easier than standing up to her. I was a coward. Yes, you were, I agreed, and he flinched but nodded. But you're here now. That matters. We spent the afternoon together, really together, perhaps for the first time in 15 years. Michael told me about the counseling, about the hard truths he was facing regarding his marriage. The children told me about school, their friends, their lives, conversations we had never truly had before, because Stephanie had always monopolized the space. As they were leaving, Emma handed me an envelope. I wrote this while you were gone, she said. I wanted you to know that I see it too, how Mom treated you, how Dad failed you. In the letter, I'm sorry, Grandma. After they left, I opened the letter. In neat teenage handwriting, Emma had written about watching me at the airport, about realizing in that moment how mean her mother was, about being ashamed that she hadn't defended me either. Standing in that airport, letting go of that reservation, I had thought I was walking away from my family. But really, I had been walking toward my self-respect. And somehow, in doing that, I had shown them all what it looked like to have boundaries, to demand basic human dignity, to choose yourself when everyone else has chosen to diminish you. Please subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next video with love and respect.